The Hitcher 2, I've Been Waiting is the 2003 horror sequel to The Hitcher, which stars C. Thomas Howell, returning as Jim Halsey, Carrie W. Herr as his girlfriend Maggie, and Jake Busey as psychotic hitchhiker Jack. The Exorcist 3 is a 1989 American supernatural horror film written and directed by William Peter Blatty. It is the third installment of the Exorcist series and a film adaptation of Blatty's novel, Legion. Wes Craven's New Nightmare is a 1994 American slasher metafilm written and directed by original Nightmare on Elm Street creator Wes Craven. Although it is the seventh film in the franchise, it is not part of the series' continuity, instead portraying Freddy Krueger as a fictional movie villain who invades the real world and haunts the cast and crew responsible for his films. Friday the 13th Part 2 is a 1981 American horror film directed by Steve Miner. It is a direct sequel to Friday the 13th, picking up 5 years after that film's conclusion, where a new murderer stalks camp counselors at a nearby training camp. The Devil's Rejects is a 2005 American horror film written and directed by Rob Zombie, and the sequel to his 2003 film House of 1000 Corpses. The film is centered on the run of 3 members of the psychopathic antagonist family from the previous film, now seen as anti-heroic protagonists, with Sid Haig, Bill Moseley and Zombie's wife Sherry Moon Zombie reprising their roles. Bride of Frankenstein is a 1935 American horror film, the first sequel to Frankenstein. Bride of Frankenstein was directed by James Whale and stars Boris Karloff as the monster, Elsa Lanchester in the dual role of his mate and Mary Shelley, Colin Clive as Henry Frankenstein, and Ernest Thesiger as Dr. Septimus Praetorius. Jason X is a 2001 Canadian-American science fiction slasher film directed by Jim Isaac. It is the 10th installment in the Friday the 13th film series and stars Kane Hodder as the undead mass murderer Jason Voorhees. Dawn of the Dead is a 1978 Italian-American horror drama film written and directed by George A. Romero. It was the second film made in Romero's Living Dead series, but contains no characters or settings from Night of the Living Dead, and shows in a larger scale the apocalyptic effects on society. Conan the Barbarian is a 1982 sword and sorcery adventure film directed and co-written by John Milius. It is based on stories by Robert E. Howard, a pulp fiction writer of the 1930s, about the adventures of the eponymous character in a fictional prehistoric world of dark magic and savagery. Total Recall is a 1990 American science fiction action film directed by Paul Verhoeven, starring Arnold Schwarzenegger, Rachel Ticotin, and Sharon Stone. The film is loosely based on the Philip K. Dick story We Can Remember It For You Wholesale. Final Destination 2 is a 2003 supernatural American horror film directed by David R. Ellis. The screenplay by J. Mackay Gruber and Eric Bress was from a story by Gruber, Bress, and series creator Jeffrey Reddick. Evil Dead 2 is a 1987 American horror comedy film directed by Sam Raimi and a parody sequel to the 1981 film The Evil Dead. The film was written by Raimi and Scott Spiegel, produced by Robert Tapert, and stars Bruce Campbell as Ash Williams. Puppet Master 3, Talon's Revenge is a 1991 direct-to-video horror film written by Charles Band, C. Courtney Joyner and David Schmuller, and directed by David Dakota. It is the third film in the Puppet Master franchise, a prequel to 1989's Puppet Master and 1991's Puppet Master 2. And stars Guy Rolfe as a puppeteer whose ability to animate lifeless material attracts the attention of the Nazis, whose members are played by Richard Lynch, Ian Abercrombie and Walter Gotell. Inferno is a 1980 Italian supernatural horror film, written and directed by Dario Argento. The film stars Irene Miracle, Lee McCloskey, Eleonora Giorgi, Daria Nicolodi and Ali DeValle. The cinematography was by Romano Albani and Keith Emerson composed the film's thunderous musical score. The Terminator is a 1984 American science fiction, horror action film directed by James Cameron, written by Cameron and the film's producer Gail Ann Hurd, and starring Arnold Schwarzenegger, Michael Biehn, and Linda Hamilton. Bride of Reanimator is a 1990 American science fiction horror film directed by Brian Yuzna and was written by Yuzna, Rick Fry and Woody Keith. H.P. Lovecraft wrote the original serialized story, titled Herbert West's A Reanimator, from which the characters were derived.